The cultivators of the Thunder Clan stood at the four corners of the celestial demon arena and took a deep breath. The thunder will upon their bodies were rolling and tossing until it finally made a deep groaning sound of the dragon chanting. The cultivators of the Thunder Clan stood at the four corners of the celestial demon arena and took a deep breath. The thunder will upon their bodies were rolling and tossing until it finally made a deep groaning sound of the dragon chanting. On top of the staircase, the prince of the Thunder Clan stood up and stared at Futian. It was clear how aggressive and unstoppable the demonic Thunderdrum matrix from the Thunder Clan was. It was far more difficult to break the matrix than to defeat him. After all, they were set up by the cultivators of the Thunder Clan, so its superior battle power was derived from the echoes of their collective will. Despite all that, Futian broke the demonic Thunderdrum matrix with only 2 strikes. The Zhu Yen Demon Crown Prince also looked over, but he was more concerned with Futian's staff techniques than with him breaking the matrix. Like Futian, he also felt that his staff techniques were somewhat similar, as if he had seen it somewhere before. These staff techniques seemed to come from the same source as his. Naturally, the 2 cultivations of the staff techniques were based on their own cultivation. Each continued evolving their staff techniques so that they would exert the greatest power in their own hands. Even if they were from the same source, it would have differed as their paths to cultivation went different ways. The final staff techniques would have also been different. Just why would this human cultivate the staff techniques from the ape clan? Furthermore, he seemed to have known several demonic cultivators. Will this suffice? At that moment, Futian looked up at the top of the stairs towards the Zhu Yen Demon Crown Prince. The eyes of man and demon met in the void. The Zhu Yen Demon Crown Prince's eyes seemed to light up with golden divine flames. Futian's eyes were as deep as the starry sky, his expression unchanged. The prince of the Thunder Clan stared at Futian wanting to speak, but he saw that the Zhu Yen Demon Crown Prince already said, "Yes, I will tell you the information about Gu Tianxing before you go." Very well, Futian nodded, then turned around to walk off the celestial demon arena. The Zhu Yen Demon Crown Prince glanced at the others and said, "What about you guys? Since you didn't come out and break the matrix yourselves, do you plan to get the information from him?" The purpose of him setting up the demonic matrix was to experience the strength of the top forces in the world of human cultivation, but he did not expect Futian to be the first to break the matrix. He didn't seem to be a disciple of the top forces in the heavenly mandate realm. On the contrary, he seemed to be quite at odds with them. His combat effectiveness was as strong as that of the top forces. The cultivators of the Violet Heavenly Palace, Brahma's Pure Sky, and the Heavenly Mandate Dynasty all lifted their heads to look at the Zhu Yen Demon Crown Prince. Just as they expected, the Crown Prince was coming for them. The descendants of Zhu Yen, the Demon Crown Prince, wanted to step on them to prove himself, but the idea was somewhat naive. He quickly glanced at the people of the 8 major Thunder Clans below. The cultivators from the Violet Heavenly Palace knew that these people were unreliable. None of them could rival Futian. Had it not been for Gu Donglu, Futian could have cultivated in the Violet Heavenly Palace. This would have been better than the current situation. Since the 8 major Thunder Clans had failed, give it to the Violet Heavenly Palace. The cultivators of the Heavenly Mandate Dynasty said. The people of the Violet Heavenly Palace glanced that way. Very well. The leader responded directly without question. His gaze fell on a cultivator from the Violet Heavenly Palace as he said, "Zimo, you go." Fine. A young man stepped forward, and everyone from the Heavenly Mandate Dynasty looked at him. It seemed that the Violet Heavenly Palace chose Tan Zimo to fight so they could avoid any further mishaps. This Tan Zimo was a well-known figure in this generation of the Violet Heavenly Palace. In the realm of the Saint Plane at the Violet Heavenly Palace, he was considered one of the 10 most significant figures there. It was known that the Violet Heavenly Palace had countless talented geniuses. Being ranked amongst the top 10 there for being the best at the thunder method among all the sentient beings in the Heavenly Mandate realm meant almost standing at its apex. Tan Zimo walked forward, clad in a purple robe decorated with patterns of lightning. He walked onto the celestial demon arena and stood in the void, the robe fluttering in the wind as he gazed at the Zhu Yen Demon Crown Prince and said, "Let me try as well." His tone was oddly calm, as if it was simply a trivial matter to him. The cultivators of the 8 major thunder clans glanced his way, worried about this battle. The Violet Heavenly Palace finally came out to fight through Tanzimo. The 8 major thunder clans were lords in their own right, but as the founder of the Thunder Method, the Violet Heavenly Palace was a place they can only aspire to go. No matter what position they held in their respective clan or how talented they were, they could only watch in awe facing off with Tanzimo, the genius figure of the Violet Heavenly Palace. Whether or not it was the Violet Heavenly Palace's intention, Tanzimo's cultivation also came from the realm of the Saint of True Self. The cultivators of the Thunder Clan gathered again into the matrix, but Tanzimo waved his hand and said, "Since you had fought previously, you make the first move." The sound of dragon chanting continued, and Tanzimo's proud voice brimmed with self-confidence. The cultivators of the Thunder Clan transformed into sacred thunder dragons without objection, their roars piercing the sky. Above the firmament appeared to be an apocalyptic sight as the light of thunder swallowed the sky. Their bodies soared into the sky and flew in circles, devouring the thunder of heaven and earth before opening their mouths to spit them out. Infinite thunder light converged in the middle, where a boundless giant demonic thunder drum appeared. The demonic thunder drum matrix was designed to gather all the might of thunder on the demon thunder war drum so it would instantly unleash the power needed to destroy the human bodies and their souls. Boom! Lightning fell from the sky and landed around Tanzimo. Tanzimo stood there quietly, seeing that many of the cultivators of the Thunder Clans gathered the momentum instead of making the first move. As his mind moved, the light of endless thunder suddenly fell and surrounded him. There appeared 8 rays of light next to him as if they were the divine thunder of the 8 colors. The Violet Heavenly Palace had lofty requirements for the talent of the Thunder Method. Along with the control of one kind of Thunder Method orthodoxy, a person also had to control all 8 Thunder Methods orthodoxy so that they would become as one, all bloomed from one person. Read more chapter on our VIP novel. Both sides gathered momentum, hoping to win with one strike. The thunder rolled as the sky was shrouded in light, and countless lightning bolts bloomed in front of everyone. The thunder light surrounding Tanzimo's body gathered into 8 beams of light and rotated around him. The 8 beams of light pierced through the sky and were integrated with the divine thunder of the Great Path. He seemed to be a matrix all by himself. The demonic beast and human cultivators watching the battle felt suffocated by its power. The sound of dragons rang through the world. The cultivators of the Thunder Clan finally made a move, spitting out the thunder from their mouths and simultaneously striking on the war drums. In an instant, destructive beams of divine thunder light blasted from the demon thunder drum toward Tanzimo. Tanzimo's expression remained unchanged. He pointed his palm forward and uttered the word, "Go." As his voice faded, 8 thunder beams rushed straight at the opponent. The 2 forces met and collided midair. The terrifying sound of the explosion made everyone feel that their mind also trembled, their eardrums vibrating violently. The sky seemed to be drowned in the thunder light, and the 2 collisions intertwined. Tanzimo stepped forward and pointed his finger toward the sky, where 8 beams of divine thunder light descended from the sky and blasted toward the giant demonic thunder drum. Boom, boom, boom. The divine thunder descended. When the war drum was hit, a terrible divine light burst out and turned its attack toward the great demons of the Thunder Clan nearby. They roared as they retreated. Bang! With an ear-shattering noise, the war drums collapsed and shattered. Seeing those cultivators of the Thunder Clan retreating, Tanzimo continued to move forward. He raised his finger to the void and said, "Thunder of catastrophe." As the words fell, a Genjin divine sword fell from the sky and blasted toward the demonic dragon, whose sharp claws slashed out to resist the oncoming power. But Tanzimo's fingers continued its strikes and said, "Smote evil, God slaughtering, life and death." As each word fell, it seemed to contain an orthodox thunder method. The heavenly thunder descended, and the roars of the demonic dragons were heard. Boom! With another loud sound, one demonic dragon was blown to the ground, covered in blood. Soon afterward, continuous trembling sounds were heard as cultivators of the Thunder Clan were struck by the divine thunder. Their bodies fell to the ground, their blood dyeing the platform red. It was a shocking sight to behold. Soon, all the cultivators from the Thunder Clan were severely injured and unable to fight again. Tanzimo stood alone in the space above the celestial demon arena, illuminated by the light of the thunder light shining around him as if it will never be extinguished. He looked at the scene with indifference and glanced lightly at the sky above the celestial demon arena. Since they had clamored for the violet heavenly palace to make a move, he could only comply. However, something else needed to be done. Something needed to serve as a warning to the demon crown prince. Although this was the territory of the other, there were some scruples. The people of the 8 major Thunder clans were afraid, but the cultivators of the Violet Heavenly Palace weren't. Since the Zhu Yen Demon Crown Prince himself had set down the battle matrix himself, the Violet Heavenly Palace, as the most supreme force of the Heavenly Mandate realm, would not be so easy to intimidate if he was defeated and dared to leverage the power. The Zhu Yen Demon Crown Prince stood up and saw the figures lying on the ground. A terrible divine light shone from his golden eyes, a flame burning upon his body. As he took a step forward, the Zhu Yen Demon Crown Prince stepped into the void and walked onto the celestial demon arena. A pressure of might shrouded the heaven and earth. In an instant, Tanzimo also felt greatly suppressed. Although the Zhu Yen Demon Crown Prince was about the same size as a human, he seemed more like a towering demon whose every step made people tremble. Even so, he remained calm, for he also wanted to know what kind of strength that this most favored prince by the Zhu Yen Demon Emperor, known as the unparalleled great demon of this territory. That alone gave him the confidence to continue challenging the Violet Heavenly Palace. The heavenly thunder roared as the clouds above the sky tossed and turned, lightning bolts shrouding the entire celestial demon arena. If it weren't for them controlling the power, it would have probably spread farther than where it currently was. Is the Zhu Yen Demon Crown Prince going to fight against the cultivators from the Violet Heavenly Palace? Numerous eyes focused there. On one side was the most talented great demon of the region, the Demon Crown Prince. On the other was the genius disciple of the top forces from the Heavenly Mandate realm, the Violet Heavenly Palace. How terrible their collision would be! If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Futian lifted his head to look up at the battlefield. He wanted to see at what level the top 2 cultivators were fighting. Futian lifted his head to look up at the battlefield. He wanted to see at what level the top 2 cultivators were fighting. Zhu Yen Demon Crown Prince was already standing at the peak in this realm, and there was nothing further to say about those from the Violet Heavenly Palace. The most powerful disciples of Heavenly Mandate realm were strong beyond imagination. In the sky above the celestial demon arena, the Zhu Yen Demon Crown Prince stretched out his hand, and suddenly a golden flaming staff materialized. He then slung it over his shoulder and continued forward. The look in his eyes was fierce, and an aggressive might bloomed from his body. His demon temperament roared with his will to war soaring. Tanzimo glanced at the other. The 8 major divine claps of thunder descended from the sky, covering him. Around him, a violent thunder field formed, and this thunder field attracted the divine thunder from heaven and earth. With his body as the center, a frightening thunder field was formed. The cultivators from the Violet Heavenly Palace looked over there, and it seemed that Tanzimo was also extremely cautious about this battle, as he had directly released his life spirit. His life spirit was unique. It was a lightning area that could devour the divine thunder of heaven and earth and could change its form at will. At this time, the lightning area had no fixed form and was shining between heaven and earth, but as soon as his mind moved, the life spirit evolved. At the Violet Heavenly Palace, Tanzimo's body of the Great Path was naturally formed with superb talents, so he cultivated and understood the 8 major thunder methods. There weren't many in the Heavenly Mandate realm who had stronger talents than his. Those who had superior talents were all geniuses and were destined to enter the top principalities. Of course, there was still a gap with the one from the Violet Heavenly Palace. After all, there were only the very few in the Heavenly Mandate realm who could possess the supreme body of the Great Path. He was destined to be high above others, ruled a generation, and stood at the peak of the mountain. However, it was thought that Tan Zimo's talent was enough to deal with the Zhu Yen demon crown prince. The divine thunder moved between heaven and earth, the lightning area was expanding madly, and the power of thunder was heading toward Zhu Yen demon crown prince as if to cast a huge thunder net. A terrible golden flame was burning on top of the Zhu Yen demon crown prince, though he did not dodge the flame and simply let the strands of thunder descended on his body as if the terrible thunderous might did not affect him. Tan Zimo didn't care. He stared straight ahead, his thoughts shrouded the heaven and the earth, and the 8 pillars of divine thunder beams shone around his body and spread toward the surrounding areas. The thunder beams continued to appear, seemingly intent on burying the world. "Righteous thunder of Imu," Tan Zimo uttered. As his voice faded, beams of lightning descended from the sky, the great path roared and smashed toward the Zhu Yen demon crown prince. Golden flames from the Zhu Yen demon crown prince collided with the thunder in the void and were at an impasse. "Negative thunder of Kueishui, fall." Tan Zimo spoke again, and thunder crashed creating chills, and the golden flames reappeared, trying to block the thunder, but the negative thunder of Kueishui penetrated the divine flames and continued its invasion. A clap of thunder rang out, and the force of the thunder struck the Zhu Yen demon crown prince, but his whole body shone with the golden flames as if covered with a layer of armor. Tan Zimo didn't care. The perilous thunder of Gengjin, infernal thunder of Wu, 8 major thunder methods descended from the sky in succession, and beams of thunder shrouded the body of the Zhu Yen demon crown prince, shining on his armor of divine flames. "Amazing defense," everyone exclaimed. He was indeed the great demon Zhu Yen. Those who cultivated in the same realm couldn't even bear a single thunder method. However, he supported the power of the 8 major thunder methods with his physical body. Tan Zimo looked at the others and secretly said that the Zhu Yen demon crown prince was indeed proud and arrogant. Both of his hands were forming a seal. His body seemed to be connecting heaven with earth, and thunder clouds of destruction appeared in the sky, painting a terrifying scene of the apocalypse. He took one step out, turning into a flash of lightning, and moving in the space at will, appearing above the Zhu Yen demon crown prince. The lightning area of the life spirit rushed into the thunder clouds, and a terrible vortex appeared. Divine thunder turned into pillars of light descending from the sky, sheltering all directions. Tan Zimo stretched his hands and looked up into the sky, looking solemn. "Fall." Tan Zimo spat out a single word, and the thunder descended. This was the great thunder attack of the Violet Heavenly Palace. The end of days thunder catastrophe. Its power to slaughter was total and complete. It would annihilate gods and demons alike. All the bystanders were shocked by the rapacious power of this thunder method. It was impossible to achieve this level of thunder spell unless the might of the cultivator was powerful. Such a scene of the apocalypse was akin to a great disaster. Several demon princes who were standing on the stairs were worried for the demon crown prince. This power was too terrifying. The thunder method of doomsday came down and blasted toward the body of Zhu Yen demon crown prince. His body shook, and the golden flaming armor was shattered and broken. The thunder method seemed to be connected with the thunderstorm of the firmament, inextinguishable, and continued its blast to his body as if to destroy where he stood. The body of the Zhu Yen demon crown prince was bent slightly, and his face had a savage look, terrifying and fierce, as his body trembled slightly. Growl. With a roar that echoed in the heavens, his body suddenly began to grow. Although he was still being forced to bend his body, he kept reaching upward and getting larger, as if he was going to support the celestial thunder with flesh and blood. "Is this it?" A low, hoarse voice came from the demon crown prince, full of monstrous ferocity, and the demon twirled upward and screamed into the sky. His body continued growing. His arms extended, the long staff was also extending madly, getting longer and longer. He lifted his head, bearing the power of the celestial thunder head-on. Bloodstains appeared faintly on his body, but he seemed to not feel it as the staff in his hand swung toward the sky. Tan Zimo's body flickered and turned into lightning. His body even soared above the thundercloud. He turned both palms downward, and the doomsday thunder continued downward as countless thunderclaps rushed toward the space below. Buzz. The Zhu Yen demon crown prince, who had now transformed into a giant war beast, waved the long staff in his hands, and there appeared endless shadows of the staff above the sky. These shadows collided with the beams of thunder, and under the attack of the doomsday thunder methods, the body of the war beast flew upward. Suddenly there seemed to be many shadows of him that appeared between the heavens and the earth, and at the same time he struck out with the long staff and collided with the divine thunder in the void. The scene above the void was truly shocking. The attack that was dealt out by the Zhu Yen demon crown prince directly blasted to the center of the violent thundercloud, smashing down with endless divine power. With a loud bang, even the celestial thunders seemed to be destroyed. A figure continued to rise and appeared high in the sky. It was Tan Zimo. The Zhu Yen demon crown prince stepped onto the sky and headed toward Tan Zimo, who was high above the sky. Although he was not as fast as Tan Zimo, for someone in the realm of the Saint of True Self, this amount of distance was negligible. The staff techniques method wielded, Tan Zimo deployed a shadow of the thunder method and disappeared in a flash again, appearing in another direction. The demon crown prince let out a deep roar, and a demonic air engulfed the space. He stood still, the golden divine staff in his hand slashed toward the sky. Its dancing shadows enveloped the infinite void and blasted its power toward Tan Zimo. The lightning around Tan Zimo turned into a horrible vortex of thunder, swallowing and crushing the attacking shadows of the staff. He stood on top of the sky and regarded the Zhu Yen demon crown prince, saying, "If it was a real battle, you would be defeated sooner or later." He had an absolute advantage in speed. Even if the opponent's attack was extremely violent, it could not get to him. Those who heard his words secretly agreed that even though the attacks and defenses of the Zhu Yen demon crown prince were impeccable, he was much too slow. Tan Zimo moved with the thunder, and the demon crown prince was unable to keep up. If they fought in the air, the opponent's combat power was equally strong, and he wouldn't be able to destroy his opponent. You dared not fight from the front, and you had the gall to make such wild claims? The prince of the Thunder clan looked coldly into the void and commented. Tan Zimo glanced at him. The offensive and defensive power of Zhu Yen demon crown prince was indeed amazing. The doomsday thunder was terrible, yet it failed to destroy him. This kind of physicality was definitely at the limit of human strength. Since when is there a limit imposed on the rules of battle? Tan Zimo asked. The fighting power of the demon crown prince was top-notch in the realm, and only a few could match him. But if this is a battle of life and death, I will not lose. Zhu Yen demon crown prince's immense body turned into the size of a human, and golden divine light was shining upon his body. He looked to Tan Zimo and said, "Where did you get that confidence?" As his voice faded and his body burst out into golden lightning. What? Everyone's eyes flashed and saw the thunder blasted from Tan Zimo's body, but the golden lightning forcibly carried the thunder attack forward. Similarly, Tan Zimo's body also turned into a thunderbolt, quickly retreating, but the golden light followed closely behind, and many phantasmic illusions appeared. Terrifying and fierce breath shrouded the entire space. As Tan Zimo stopped his movements, the infinite shadow served the staff technique at the same time. He stretched out both palms, and the space around his body turned into a terrible lightning area, locking down all the phantom illusions. A shocking roar was heard, and the immense body of Zhu Yen appeared above him, looking down. A massive long staff swamped the sky, breaking through the bounds of the endless lightning area and slamming at him. Bang! The shadow of the staff struck down. All the crowd saw was a figure falling from the void, spitting blood. It was Tan Zimo. He stabilized his body and looked up at the giant demonic shadow in the void, looking bad. Phantasm movements of human cultivation? Tan Zimo remarked. This was not something that would belong to the talents of the great demon Zhu Yen. Zhu Yen demon crown prince glanced at him, then went back. His body became smaller once again and looked toward many influential individuals from the heavenly mandate realm. Everyone looked troubled. Tan Zimo of the Violet Heavenly Palace was defeated by the Zhu Yen demon crown prince. The demon crown prince finally fixed his golden eyes in one direction, and the one who stood there was not just any power principalities of the realm. It was Futian. Why did you choose to break the matrix previously, instead of fighting with me? The demon crown prince's voice was cold and indifferent, its might filled with overwhelming terror. Since I aimed to extract some news from the prince, naturally I didn't want to ruin the peace between us, Yi Futian responded. What if I wanted to see your real strength? Asked the Zhu Yan demon crown prince. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Yi Futian looked up at Zhu Yan demon crown prince and knew his intentions. Since he felt the staff techniques were somewhat familiar, the demon crown prince must have felt the same way too. Yi Futian looked up at Zhu Yan demon crown prince and knew his intentions. Since he felt the staff techniques were somewhat familiar, the demon crown prince must have felt the same way too. Therefore, he wanted to experience his staff techniques. Since the crown prince is so interested, I will do my best so that he is not disappointed. Yi Futian responded after seeing the demon crown prince was looking at him, and he agreed to the battle. Many cultivators were looking at Yi Futian. Even Tan Zimo of the Violet Heavenly Palace was defeated by the demon crown prince. How could Yi Futian counterbalance this great demon Zhu Yan? Although Yi Futian's previous exhibition of combat effectiveness was quite impressive, Tan Zimo's power was also witnessed by everyone. The 8th series of the Thunder Method, the divine thunder descended from the sky, and the great path of cloud catastrophe gave way to the final thunder of catastrophe. Even so, the defense of the other was not destroyed. This point alone would render the demon crown prince invincible. What was more, he also seemed to have cultivated inhuman movement and phantasm spell, with nearly no weaknesses. The people who fought with him would need to be from the top forces of the heavenly mondade realm like Tan Zimo. Previously, many thought that it was more difficult to break the matrix than do a battle challenge, but after seeing the display of Zhu Yan's true strength, they began to understand that his test was far more difficult than the demonic matrix. Just as everyone was deep in thought, Yi Futian had already walked forward. His body levitated as he walked into the void toward Zhu Yan demon crown prince. Sacrifice the staff, Zhu Yan demon crown prince said to Yi Futian, holding the divine golden flaming staff. Yi Futian held out his hand, and a starry long staff appeared in it. So it was his staff techniques that the crown prince wanted to see. Those human cultivators saw this scene and understood that the reason Zhu Yan demon crown prince did not challenge them was because he wanted to know Yi Futian's strength. His staff technique is a bit similar to that of the demon crown prince. Maybe it is the same great path, and the demon crown prince wants to see Yi Futian's staff technique, someone said. It's just that, even though the techniques are similar, but the gap between the practitioners is considerable. The Zhu Yan demon crown prince has such a violent attack, and its power is at its height. Will Yi Futian survive his staff techniques? This battle will let us see how strong Yi Futian is and see how far he can persist the other's staff techniques. People of the Thunder Clan principalities argued that, since Tan Zimo had been defeated, they were hoping that Yi Futian did not have the strength to compete with the demon crown prince. Otherwise, it would be extremely embarrassing for the Violet Heavenly Palace. The Violet Heavenly Palace was the head of the 8 major thunder methods. If Yi Futian could stand shoulder to shoulder with him, then where would the 8 major thunder clans stand? In this great battle between demons and humans, they suddenly changed their alliance and hoped that the demon crown prince would crush Yi Futian. At least, this would prove that the Zhu Yan demon crown prince was powerful and that Tan Zimo's defeat was not embarrassing. It is unknown how many strikes he can survive, but none of you could bear even one strike of the staff. Yu Sheng's eyes swept over the people of the 8 major thunder clans. All eyes focused on Yu Sheng, who looked nonchalant. Even those who followed Yi Futian were arrogant. At that moment, an overwhelming might hovered over the vast space, and they weren't in the mood to hang around Yu Sheng. Instead, they looked at the sky above the celestial demon arena. The Zhu Yan demon crown prince held up a long staff. A flash of lightning crossed the void, and his body rushed straight toward Yi Futian. Above, a shadow of the staff appeared, and as it smashed down, a row of staff shadows appeared, sweeping through the void. At the same time, a heavy pressure overwhelmed Yi Futian, and the shadows of the staff covered the sky. Bang! Yi Futian took one step, and starry lights appeared in the world that surrounded them. The long staff in his hand danced, and a dull sound was made in the void. Like a real star, it swept away towards the sky. The airwaves with extreme violence blasted this space, and the demon crown prince swept downward. A low roar came out, exposing his ferocious fangs. His arms picked up the staff at the same time, and swirled it in the void. A violent vortex of the great path appeared on top of it, and when the staff came down, the void seemed to be chopped in half. Yi Futian did not evade but continued to walk on the sky. His body rose, with a sky full of starry lights. Another strike and the heavens and stars were integrated into the staff. And then another violent collision. Zhu Yan Demon Crown Prince's body spun like a top, creating infinite staff shadows in front of him. But the body came down sideways, and the many shadows of the staff fell without any rules or methods. Yi Futian also detected that, at this moment, the Demon Crown Prince's staff techniques were based on that of the Ape Clan, which he completely integrated into his fighting style. There were no rules to speak of, only the purest pursuit for the most powerful and extreme strength. The staff techniques, which seemed incoherent, exploded out of his hands but was complete in itself. The long staff, as wielded by Yi Futian, swept out, according to his desire. But another strike and the two collided for the third time, but neither of them retreated. Golden lightning flashed across the sky, and the figure of Zhu Yan Demon Crown Prince seemed to disappear, except the billowing air currents that were still roaring between heaven and earth. Yi Futian also twirled and moved, disappearing out of thin air. The crowd raised their heads and looked at the sky above the celestial demon arena, only to see that two lightning strikes were spinning toward the firmament. Each attack collided again, and each collision seemed to break apart the sky and earth, and the sky seemed to be wiped out by those all-encompassing staff shadows. The eyes of those from the Violet Heavenly Palace and the 8 major Thunder clans changed. How could it be? Yi Futian was able to directly collide with the Demon Crown Prince, and all of them were violent frontal collisions. The physicality and strength of the Zhu Yan Demon Crown Prince were top-notch in the demonic world. For a human to reach such a limit, it was nearly impossible. However, Yi Futian himself was not shocked into retreat but confronted the Zhu Yan Demon Crown Prince violently time and again. How could his divine power so great? However, Zhu Yan Demon Crown Prince did not transform into a great beast. It seemed that he only wanted to see Yi Futian's staff techniques without the intention to suppress him. After the Demon Crown Prince morphed into the giant beast, his speed would be reduced, but his attack and defense skills would increase. Bang! A loud sound rang out as the two figures separated. Zhu Yan Demon Crown Prince and Yi Futian each stood on one side of the space, and the Demon Crown Prince, looking at Yi Futian, said, "Great staff techniques." In this confrontation, he just wanted to see Yi Futian's staff techniques, so he hadn't exerted his best efforts. Yi Futian's staff technique was indeed from the same heritage as his and bore many similarities. It's just that the strength was still not enough. If I pressed for it, you probably couldn't have exerted the full power of the staff, Zhu Yan Demon Crown Prince said indifferently. His eyes were golden. He had a reputation of being high and mighty, but he had a good impression of Yi Futian. After all, their staff techniques were from the same clan. Indeed, the people below secretly remarked, the Demon Crown Prince had shown mercy. No wonder Yi Futian lasted so long. So the peace was not broken between us. I kept the power of the staff under control. Otherwise, if the attack was to remain to this degree, I'm afraid your highness would not have been able to persist this long, Yi Futian replied, which caused the Demon Crown Prince to look amused. He grinned menacingly. There was someone who took his attacking power lightly? That may be the case. Try a strike from me, and let me see just how far you have progressed with your techniques, the Zhu Yan Demon Crown Prince said, unleashing his menacing aggression, and the infinite power above the sky descended. His body dazzled as if protected by a divine golden flame, and an endless stream of light from heaven and earth rushed toward the long staff in his hands, radiating as the rising sun. Yi Futian responded with a single word, took one step, and a sacred brilliance flashed upon his body, deed of thorough comprehension bloomed as his body turned into a furnace of the great path, and the endless power of heaven and earth merged into his body. He stretched out his hands with the long staff laying across the palm, traveling in the void boom. His clothing moved with the roar. An amazing explosion fused space with his body as if all the power of the sky was at his beck and call. At that moment, Futian seemed to have entered another realm, and his temperament changed. Growl. The heaven and earth roared and raged, and there seemed to be an immense and incomparable illusion of a Vajra giant beast in the sky. This illusion shrouded the Zhu Yan. Although he had not turned into the great beast, the force he projected was equally unbridled. The void moved with the steps, the might between the heaven and earth enveloped Futian. Catch! A deep voice rang out, and a giant golden staff appeared and struck down from the sky. When the staff fell, a divine golden light appeared between heaven and earth and cut through the sky. Futian's body moved again, as he took another step. The sacred light of the deed of thorough comprehension rose, resonated with the great path and integrated into the staff. Moving with the staff techniques, unified with the great path, the techniques became one. When the staff techniques integrated, they countered the golden divine staff that was slashing toward him. Many stared at this scene. Would Futian be vanquished by this strike? Boom! Above the firmament, the shadows of the two staff collided, and as quickly as they touched, they separated immediately. At the moment the two staffs collided, the crowd saw a figure immediately fly backward. When the identity of the flying figure was discerned, countless eyes below seemed to be fixed on it. A figure surrounded by sacred radiance with the staff techniques whistling and dancing stood in the sky. This figure was Futian. And the Zhu Yan demon crown prince, at the time of that aggressive attack, was blasted away by Futian's strike. How can it be? Many demonic beasts were watching the scene in disbelief, as were the human cultivators. They had all witnessed the great strength of the Zhu Yan demon crown prince. They had watched him crush Tan Zimo. But now he was knocked out by Futian's staff? The cultivators from the violet heavenly palace's faces changed. This meant that Futian was far stronger than Tan Zimo. Otherwise, how was he able to smash the Zhu Yan demon crown prince with a single strike? If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. The eyes of the 8 major thunder clans, such as the purple underworld, were even more interesting. That dazzling figure who stood in the sky shrouded entirely by the sacred light, integrated with the will of the great path, and exploded out of his body. All powers morphed into a single strike. The eyes of the 8 major thunder clans, such as the purple underworld, were even more interesting. That dazzling figure who stood in the sky shrouded entirely by the sacred light, integrated with the will of the great path, and exploded out of his body. All powers morphed into a single strike. That one blow from Futian knocked back the Zhu Yan demon crown prince, and those from the realm of the saint of true self couldn't even withstand a single attack from the great demon of Zhu Yan. Once, when Futian rejected the purple underworld, some felt sympathy for him, sad that he had missed a great opportunity. Looking at it now, did he need to cultivate it all in the purple underworld? Was this the true reason for his refusal of the purple underworld and the violet heavenly palace? Well played. The people of heavenly mandate realms suddenly became interested. Futian had given them a reason to be excited. Before this, the people of heavenly mandate realm did not take Futian seriously, but now, they discovered that this man possessed combat power comparable to those of their disciples of the most supreme power. There weren't many like him in the heavenly mandate realm. What would the emperor of the purple underground think after he learned of this? Of course, the most surprised were the cultivators from the demonic clan. Before, they had been extremely excited and shouting. But when this strike fell, the area of the celestial demon arena quieted down, and these demonic beasts, eyes wide, stared at the void. The demon crown prince was knocked back. Above the void, Zhu Yan's body was bent. After he got a hold of himself, he raised his head, and his golden eyes swept toward Futian. His overbearing physique once again stood up, staring at the figure opposite him. After the efforts were spent on staff techniques and strength, he was defeated by a human. He stepped up and shook the void. When he moved, the violent beast behind him appeared again, its body spinning, turning into golden lightning, and instantly descended above Yi Futian. A terrifying roar rang throughout the heaven and the earth. A fierce breath came from the sky, and an immense staff of divine golden flame appeared between the heaven and the earth, crashing down. The sacred and radiant light beams around Yi Futian's body rushed straight into the sky, and as he walked in the air, he went upward against the force and an awesome might swept across the heavens. As this happened, shining stars appeared twinkling all over the sky. The starry staff in his palm continued growing. He lifted both arms, and a mighty power rolled out to sweep the void. Boom! The two massive staffs collided, and the void seemed to violently tremble. The extremely aggressive demon crown prince felt the infinite power blasted on his body, then rush into him, attempting to destroy his physical body. Poof! He spat out a mouthful of blood, and the tense body could no longer support its weight and was once again knocked out by the staff and blasted toward the endless sky. Everyone's hearts started beating fiercely, even the demonic beasts. They looked up at the sky. At this level, the Zhu Yan demon crown prince would exert all his effort, which would only prove that, without resorting to the transformation of a giant war beast, Yi Futian's offensive power was indeed stronger than his. Above the firmament, there came an incomprehensible horror of coercion. The demonic atmosphere permeated the space, turning into a terrible storm. An immense beast came from the sky and moved toward Yi Futian incredibly fast. This time, it was the real giant beast itself. Its monstrous force seemed to be able to trample people to death. Yi Futian stepped in the void. His body spun, the long staff danced in his hands, his body, likewise, grew larger, and transformed into a starry battle form. Infinite starry streams sprinkled down and flowed into the staff techniques. Above his head, a giant staff slammed down from the sky, destroying the heavens and splitting open the earth. Yi Futian's staff went up against the force, and all the stars of heaven were one. The will of the great path was unified, and turned into the path of all destruction. The moment the rolling shadows touched, the sky seemed to collapse. They were fighting in the air, but the crowd felt that the ground beneath them was shaking. The two figures seemed to stall above, and that moment seemed to last forever. Two pairs of eyes stared at each other, both were extremely arrogant. The next moment, the two flew apart. This time, Yi Futian also retreated, but Zhu Yan was knocked toward the sky. Only when Zhu Yan looked down at Yi Futian, he saw a mighty force was manifesting, and the momentum of the staff techniques seemed to still exist, as if the next attack would be even stronger. At that moment, Zhu Yan demon crown prince lost his confidence. It was the first time he was unsure. In the past, he always felt invincible in every battle. No matter who was in front of him, he knew he could take them down. Those deep human eyes made him feel like he couldn't see the end, just like Yi Futian's staff techniques. "Do you wish to continue?" Yi Futian asked Zhu Yan demon crown prince. To be able to fight again under the encroachment of the 9 heavenly attacks, the deed of thorough comprehension, the starry great path, and the great path of destruction avenue, and still able to continue, there was no question that Zhu Yan demon crown prince was the most talented great demon of the region. He had even could defeat the cultivator of the violet heavenly palace. Zhu Yan demon crown prince looked down at Yi Futian. His eyes were still full of ferocity, but the violent demonic atmosphere between the heaven and the earth was gradually dissipating, and his massive body was also shrinking, returning to human size. The long staff in Yi Futian's hand also disappeared, and the starry battle form dissipated, as did the sacred radiance surrounding his body. On the staff technique alone I lost, but if it was a real battle of life and death, who would win? Zhu Yan demon crown prince stared at Yi Futian and asked. Tan Zimo from Violet Heavenly Palace had asked him this very same question before, and he proved that Tan Zimo could not. Then what about Yi Futian? The man in front of him was stronger than Tan Zimo. Yi Futian said nothing. A sense of will pervaded him. In an instant, a turbulent storm of space started blowing. Even Zhu Yan demon crown prince felt that his body was shrouded by space will, which bound him. In terms of speed, the Demon Crown Prince had proved that he was strong, but in the face of space will, his speed had no advantage. The Crown Prince needn't be concerned. In my cultivation thus far, none within the realm have been able to rival me. Futian said as he looked at the Demon Crown Prince. His answer was quite obvious. In the battle of life and death, he would be the winner. Zhu Yen Demon Crown Prince should not feel bad about this. This was really... You are too arrogant. Zhu Yen Demon Crown Prince said, but you are qualified, at least more qualified, than the people from the Violet Heavenly Palace. People from the Violet Heavenly Palace looked terrible when they heard what Zhu Yen Demon Crown Prince said. Tan Zimo's face was even more unsightly. A person who was not the top force of the Heavenly Mandate realm, but was just a casual cultivator, who claimed to be invincible in his realm, was declared in front of those who were of the supreme power of the Heavenly Mandate realm. Besides, listening to your conversation previously, it seemed that the people of the Violet Heavenly Palace forbade you from using the Thunder method? Zhu Yen Demon Crown Prince continued and glanced at the people from Violet Heavenly Palace. Today, I came here to see about the real strength of the top cultivators of the Heavenly Mandate realm, but now it seemed that reality did not live up to its reputation. Upon hearing his words, the cultivators of the Violet Heavenly Palace were even more embarrassed. Before, when he was at the Purple Underground, a disciple of the Violet Heavenly Palace claimed to have banned Futian from cultivating the Thunder method. It seemed as if the world of cultivation could not tolerate Futian. Looking back now, did Futian need to cultivate the Thunder method? Based on the display of his combat effectiveness, it was safe to say that he regarded the inheritance of infernal thunder of Wutu as beneath him. It was just one battle, and it was laughable to make such a conclusion based on that. Tan Zimo of Violet Heavenly Palace responded, among the top forces in the Heavenly Mandate realm, there are many who are stronger than me. In the Violet Heavenly Palace alone, there are many. Although the strength of the Demon Crown Prince is great, using it as a measure for the world is short-sighted. Not to mention, those who cultivate in the Heavenly Mandate realm, not even those who are in the supreme body of the Great Path dared to claim to be invincible, even to those within the same realm. You people are indeed short-sighted. You think that there is only one thunder cultivation method and ban the thunder method of others. Xia Qingyuan looked up and said to Tan Zimo. Tan Zimo looked at Xia Qingyuan, as everyone else from the Violet Heavenly Palace stared at her. Would this matter never be forgotten? For the Violet Heavenly Palace, this was truly not something that made them look good, and now the other party mentioned it several times. Do you have a right to speak here? Asked a cultivator from the Violet Heavenly Palace indifferently. They were the supreme power from the Heavenly Mandate realm, and these people were poking fun at them. Futian turned his gaze toward the cultivator from the Violet Heavenly Palace. Why no right? Futian stepped down from the Celestial Demon Arena and looked at the cultivators of the Violet Heavenly Palace. The pressure of might bloomed from the cultivator from the Violet Heavenly Palace, and in a moment, a violent will shrouded the vast world. Feeling this might, Futian said again, the right you are referring to was about to your identity as a disciple of the Violet Heavenly Palace, or your strength. If your strength is not good enough, and you are making a threat as a disciple of the Violet Heavenly Palace, then we are indeed not on that level. Strength not good enough? Futian's voice made the people around him speechless. He said that the strength of the people from the Violet Heavenly Palace wasn't good enough? You are using one person's combat power to judge the overall strength of an institution? A leading figure from the Violet Heavenly Palace asked. The 4 realms of the divine path, your choice. Futian stared at the other and replied. This arrogant man shocked the crowd into silence. Futian had told the top force, the Violet Heavenly Palace of the Heavenly Mandate realm, that out of the 4 realms of the divine path, they may choose as they please. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. The space fell quiet. The people of the Violet Heavenly Palace thought they must have heard it wrong. The space fell quiet. The people of the Violet Heavenly Palace thought they must have heard it wrong. As they said, a warrior's combat ability didn't represent everything. But even the Violet Heavenly Palace had to admit Yi Futian was very strong and had proven himself. But was Tan Zimo weak? The 8 sets of thunder laws induced the final thunderstorms of catastrophe. How terrifying that power was. Only the mightiest warrior like Zhu Yan Demon Crown Prince could win over him. But this moment, Yi Futian claimed that he and his group dared to challenge any warriors of the 4 Saint Plains. Did he mean that his teammates could win over warriors of the Violet Heavenly Palace in all the 4 levels of Saint Plain? How could a group of casual cultivators be stronger than warriors of the Violet Heavenly Palace in any level of Saint Plain? He should not only be described as being arrogant. For people of the Violet Heavenly Palace, he was humiliating the Violet Heavenly Palace as a top force of the Heavenly Mandate realm. Not only were the people of the Violet Heavenly Palace stupefied by his words, everyone who came from the Heavenly Mandate realm was shocked and looked at Yi Futian. Although this white-haired young man was strong in combat, his words were arrogant. Did his team want to challenge all cultivators of the Violet Heavenly Palace here? If they had not seen it with their own eyes, they wouldn't have believed that a group of casual cultivators dared to be so presumptuous and claim that they could challenge cultivators at any level of the most powerful forces in the Heavenly Mandate realm. "You are like a dwarf judging how tall the sky is," Zhang Chongqing said coldly. Before, even the Purple Underground sect and the other 7 Thunder Law sects did not pay attention to Yi Futian, but now Yi Futian directly skipped them and challenged the Violet Heavenly Palace. All thunder laws of the world originated from the Heavenly Palace. Even the 8 Thunder Law sects owed their heritage to the Violet Heavenly Palace. Yi Futian glanced at Zhang Chongqing in contempt and didn't say anything. His glance seemed to tell Zhang Chongqing that he didn't care at all. "You can't even break the demonic matrix." "Just shut up," Black Wind Condor shrieked behind Yi Futian. Zhang Chongqing's eyes suddenly lost their gleam. He couldn't prove him wrong. No warriors of the 8 Thunder Law sects were able to break the demon matrices, and when they wanted to challenge Zhu Yan Demon Crown Prince, they ended up being defeated by Zhu Yan Demon Crown Prince in one strike. But later, Yi Futian forcibly broke through all the demonic matrices. They indeed couldn't rebut. From this perspective, Yi Futian had won over the 8 Thunder Law sects. "Tell me which you do or don't choose," Yi Futian said, still looking at warriors from the Violet Heavenly Palace. Since they were used to looking down upon him in a lofty manner, then he would choose to completely defeat these cultivators of the Violet Heavenly Palace in front of the world and let them lose all dignity. He would like to see how these people would go back to face their sect elders after being directly vanquished by their opponent. He wasn't worried about revenge from the Violet Heavenly Palace, either. If they vanquished the disciples of the Violet Heavenly Palace face to face, and the Violet Heavenly Palace sent Renhuang-level warriors to fight against them, from now on, the Violet Heavenly Palace would be a laughingstock in the Heavenly Mandate realm. So, the Heavenly Mandate realm would, at most, send other better disciples to deal with them. "I will grant your wish," a leader of the Violet Heavenly Palace replied while staring at Yi Futian. His eyes seemed to contain very strong wills of purple thunder. An appalling air flow rose in the space around them. Warriors of the Violet Heavenly Palace stood together, and the converging might encircled Yi Futian and his group. "Wen Yan," he turned his head and called someone's name. A cultivator of the Violet Heavenly Palace stepped out. The man was about 30 years old. He looked gentle and elegant with long hair. He was in the first level of Saint Plain, the Doctrine Saint Plain. There were not many people in the first stage of the Saint Plain during this trip, and among them, Wen Yan was the strongest. Since he wanted to challenge the Violet Heavenly Palace, then the Violet Heavenly Palace would show him what the real strength of their cultivators was like. "Please," Wen Yan said. His tone was gentle and without any emotional change. No one could tell what mood he was in now. However, Yi Futian kept goading the Violet Heavenly Palace. As a cultivator of the Violet Heavenly Palace, the calmer Wen Yan looked, the more dangerous he was. The dignity of the supreme force of the Heaven's Mandate realm was not allowed to be trampled. "Yu Sheng, I will leave him to you." Yi Futian turned his head and whispered to Yu Sheng. Yu Sheng didn't say anything. He stepped out, raised his head, and looked up at Wen Yan in the void sky. Wen Yan glanced at him, and then he swayed up and flew straight into the clouds. He didn't go to the celestial demon arena. At that moment, when Yen looked up at the sky, the lightning shining above the sky, falling from different directions, just like the scene before a thunderstorm. There was even horrifying lightning directly entering his eyes and turning his pupils purple. That pair of eyes were extremely cold, and hidden inside was a murderous look. Boom! In the sky, there were rolls of thunder roaring, terrifying heavenly thunder converging and becoming stronger, countless rays of lightning falling. The purple light in his pupils was getting stronger and stronger. His eyes were unlike any ever seen on a human. Bang! Yu Sheng stepped into the sky. He soared up and chased Wen Yen. Around his body, rays of lightning fell, but he seemed to be completely unaware and continued to go up, ignoring those thunder forces. Below them, both human cultivators and demon beasts were looking up at the sky. They also wanted to see if the people around Yi Futian could threaten the Violet Heavenly Palace. Read more chapter on our VIP novel. Although they also recognized Yi Futian's ability, they also felt his words were too arrogant. Letting the Violet Heavenly Palace choose any of the 4 Saint Plains to challenge? It sounded crazy. This time, Wen Yen of the Violet Heavenly Palace would be ruthless towards him. Boom! Suddenly, a loud noise came from the sky, and the crowd saw a terrible beam of lightning converge instantly. Above the sky, a pair of eyes with 2 huge purple pupils appeared. This pair of eyes crazily devoured the will of Great Thunder Law in the space and turned it into a terrifying cloud of catastrophe. Purple pupils, people murmured, stirred by the scene. Wen Yan's life spirit might be pupil spirit, which could elicit the might of thunder. Yu Sheng was still suspended in the air, and suddenly a beam of light dropped from the sky. The dazzling beam of light directly split the void sky and slashed toward Yu Sheng's body. All of this happened too quickly for anyone to react. He can't escape. The thought flashed in people's minds. Just a moment later, the thunder dropped directly and struck straight on the Yu Sheng's body, making a terrifying sound. Many people's hearts thumped hard as the might of thunder roared. Nobody knew how lethal this streak of divine thunder would be. Boom! The lightning struck Yu Sheng and endless thunderstorms submerged his body. When everyone thought Yu Sheng would be injured, they discovered that his speed was only delayed for a moment, and soon he continued to move upward. The lightning surrounded his body, but he seemed to have put an armor of demonic law around his body. The thunder force roaming around him did not affect him at all, and his body was devouring the will of thunder little by little. The scene made many people have weird looks. They felt a little bit numb inside. The Zhu Yen Demon Crown Prince's physical defense was strong, and Yi Futian also proved how terrifying his physical strength was during his battle with him. And now Yu Sheng again? Since when did a physical body of this level become so ubiquitous? Any normal cultivator of the same plane should be smashed to pieces by one strike of this Violet Heavenly Palace warrior's Thunder Law attack. Wen Yen frowned. His body turned into a bolt of lightning and rushed directly into the thunder in the sky. The Thunder Law attack mainly depended on the might of thunder. A more violent cloud of catastrophe appeared, and a pair of terrible purple eyes showed up above the sky of thunder. When he looked towards Yu Sheng, just one moment, Yu Sheng seemed to be in a world of thunder, falling into that pair of purple pupils. He felt his body and this world were all surrounded by endless divine purple thunder, which all slashed towards him at the same time. The dark golden demon armor on his body directly bore the power of thunder attack, and his eyes became extremely deep, like an abyss. They looked upwards and turned into a pair of horrifying demonic pupils. In his demonic pupils, there seemed to be a demon statue, like an ultimate demonic deity. Yu Sheng stretched out 2 palms, and the endless thunder wills was devoured by his demonic body. His body turned into a vortex of horror, like a bottomless pit. An appalling swallowing airflow was formed between him and Wen Yen in the upper sky. The Thunder Law fell and was engulfed by the demonic figure. That pair of demonic pupils and Wen Yan's purple pupils collided with each other. At the moment when they crushed, Wen Yen just felt that a demon stepped towards him and forced him to worship. That kind of feeling made his body shiver. Bang! Yu Sheng took one step out, crushing over the sky and earth. Wen Yan's heart trembled. He turned into a lightning bolt and wanted to leave the battlefield, but around him, demon-like figures suddenly appeared out of nowhere and standing in the sky. Seeing this, Wen Yan looked stiff. He drew Prince between two hands, and endless thunder laws appeared in the upper sky, turning into horrifying thunders of catastrophe and thrusting in all directions. Phantoms of the thunder deity also drew out Palm Prince at the same time. The light of Thunder Law and the Palm Prince collided, emitting a strong, dazzling light. There seemed to be a demonic melody lingering between the sky and earth. Yuxing continued walking in the void sky, with his palms clawing forward. Suddenly, the horrific flows of demonic law swirled into Wen Yan's body, forming an overbearing vortex of devouring that madly consumed the light of thunder above his body, flowing towards the palms of the demonic law below. The people below looked at them, stupefied. Wen Yan's body was surrounded by the demonic airflows, which swept away all his power. The thunder wills were all devoured and demonized, crazily weakening Wen Yan's power. His life force was also constantly being enervated. "Come here." An intimidating voice came out, and there seemed to be melodies lingering between the sky and earth as if many demons were chanting two words at the same time. Boom! Wen Yan's body moved uncontrollably towards Yusheng. His power was being weakened. How could he withstand this power? Although he was stronger compared to other warriors of the doctrine's Saint Plane, there was a gap between his talent and that of Tan Zimo in the Violet Heavenly Palace. How could he fight against Yusheng? Another voice came out, and the crowd saw Wen Yan being directly dragged toward Yusheng's palm by the demonic airflow, and his neck was buckled directly. His body struggled frantically, and there was sorrow on his face. Was he, a disciple of the Violet Heavenly Palace, really that weak? If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. It could be said that during the battle between Zhu Yan Demon Crown Prince and Tan Zimo's defeat lost the Violet Heavenly Palace's prestige, especially after Yi Futian repelled the Zhu Yan Demon Crown Prince. In contrast, Tan Zimo's lack of strength became even more apparent. It could be said that during the battle between Zhu Yan Demon Crown Prince and Tan Zimo's defeat lost the Violet Heavenly Palace's prestige, especially after Yi Futian repelled the Zhu Yan Demon Crown Prince. In contrast, Tan Zimo's lack of strength became even more apparent. In that battle, however, at least Tan Zimo had performed supreme combat ability of a disciple from the Violet Heavenly Palace, and his defeat was not too bad. After that, Yi Futian raved that the Violet Heavenly Palace could choose any one of the 4 Saint Planes to challenge his teammates. That was why the brutal battle just happened. The first plane disciple of the Violet Heavenly Palace, Wen Yan, was directly controlled by Yuxing in a domineering posture and elevated above others. He was trounced by the power that had an absolute advantage. Wen Yan was crushed in a humiliating way without fully exerting his strength. It was miserable. Even he began to doubt his strength. Was he that weak? Was the many years he spent on cultivation nothing but a waste of time? Countless pairs of eyes gazed into the void sky. This scene was simply shocking to them. The faces of warriors of the Violet Heavenly Palace all became pale. They did not understand how Wen Yan could be defeated like this. Previously, they thought Yi Futian's ravings were just a joke. But now, it didn't seem funny at all. Yi Futian let them choose any of the 4 Saint Planes to challenge, and after they chose one and fought, their warrior was vanquished. It was so ironic. The fighters belonged to one of the strongest forces in the Heavenly Mandate realm, the Violet Heavenly Palace. Banning him from using thunder laws? How dare you? The voice of Yuxing came from the void sky. He carried Wen Yan's body down, like a lightning strike, and smashed his body on the ground. Bang! With a loud noise, the ground shook violently. Yuxing turned around and walked back, leaving Wen Yan's body lying on the ground. He is so violent. Many people marveled. This was even more violent than demon beasts. When Yuxing passed by warriors of the 8 Thunderlaw sects, he glanced at them with his cold demonic eyes. Zhang Chongqing and others frowned and even felt an invisible pressure. Yuxing also felt a little bit perturbed at that moment. What happened to the world? A group of casual cultivators successfully challenged the Violet Heavenly Palace. And they came from the lower realms. On the top of the stairs in the distance, the Zhu Yen demon crown prince was staring. There was a strange look in his golden eyes. Yu Sheng's power was horrifyingly domineering. The cultivator of the Violet Heavenly Palace was not weak in the slightest, but under Yu Sheng's might he couldn't fight back. Who are these people? He arranged this celestial demon arena to challenge all the cultivators of the peak forces in the Heavenly Mandate realm, but now it seemed that it had become a battlefield for Yi Futian and the Violet Heavenly Palace. Yi Futian looked at the other side calmly without saying anything. At this moment, another figure stepped out, still from the crowd of the Violet Heavenly Palace. Obviously, they were not willing to let it go. For the Violet Heavenly Realm, this battle was a big humiliation. The warrior who came out had an astounding demeanor. A destructive might of thunder shrouded the world, crushing the sky and earth. He was more imposing than any of the other previous warriors. An unblemished saint. Yi Futian glanced up at him. The Violet Heavenly Palace sent an unblemished saint. Their strongest warrior of the doctrine saint was Wen Yan, who was vanquished. Who dared challenge Yu Sheng? The true self-saint, Tanzimo, was defeated by the Zhu Yen demon crown prince, but Yi Futian successfully repelled Zhu Yen, so no one had the confidence to defeat Yi Futian. So, only the unblemished plane and the Nirvana plane were left. Thus, this time, the cultivator who stepped out was an intimidating warrior of the unblemished saint plane. The warrior was not young, a middle-aged man with an aloof temperament. Yi Futian glanced at him and said, "Shall we continue?" Before, Yi Futian only asked them to choose one of the 4 saint planes to challenge. He had not said he would keep fighting. But apparently, the Violet Heavenly Palace was not willing to end the battle. "Let all your warriors below Nirvana plane come out and fight with me," the warrior said. "No need, just one battle is enough." Yi Futian responded, and he turned to look at 2 people behind him. In their group, there were 2 unblemished saints, Yaya and Mu Chunyang. Although Mu Chunyang was Qi Xuanzhang's disciple with outstanding talents, he didn't have a conspicuous advantage over the unblemished saints of the Violet Heavenly Palace. Although Yaya was at the apex of her unblemished plan, she was about to return to the peak Nirvana plane. She already had the state of mind of Nirvana and had previously been to the Nirvana plane. Moreover, her might of sword matrix was also extremely powerful. So, for this battle, Yaya was obviously more suitable than Mu Chunyang. Seeing Yi Futian looking at her, Yaya stepped out, without saying anything. Her body flashed. Yaya rushed to the sky like a sharp sword. The unblemished saint warrior of the Violet Heavenly Palace was called Hui Yen. His cultivation in thunder law was at its pinnacle. Seeing Yaya jumping into the air, he did the same, crossed the endless void sky with one step and came to the upper sky, standing opposite Yaya. Neither of them talked nonsense. Astonishing spirits exploded from both of them. Hui Yen waved 2 hands, and suddenly around Yaya's body, the sky and earth were filled with thunder. As if in just one moment, she had been sealed in the domain of thunder. Such a siege was not very powerful. Since Yaya was qualified to stand there, how could she be easily trapped? Yaya saw Yi Futian had no intention to attack, so she waved her hands, and the might of swords were condensed and formed from all skies. With her body as the center, countless swords showed up between the sky and earth, rotating toward her. Around her body, a huge sword matrix pattern appeared. Tens of thousands of words rumbled and devoured the sword laws of all skies. Warriors saw this scene and said to themselves, "A heavy sword matrix." At that moment, countless people were also watching the fight. This young lady was able to control such a mighty void sword law. He's also creating a matrix, but it's a matrix of thunder destruction, someone said. The crowd turned to look toward Hui Yen of the Violet Heavenly Palace again. The endless divine thunder surged, sealing the sky and earth. Sometimes a terrible lightning bolt flashed by, thrusting toward Yaya's body, but he was unable to break through the horrifying sword will. Are there 2 unblemished saint warriors going to fight against each other through the matrix? People asked each other. All the onlookers' hearts beat quickly. All the might of the great law between the sky and earth converged and turned into turbulent fighting wills, which only made the destructive power even stronger. Huiyan flitted forward. He opened his arms and looked up at the sky, and beams of light descended from the sky and surrounded Yaya's body. Countless people's hearts thumped fast. He is so powerful. The rolling demonic cloud was similar to the thunder law used by Tanzimo before. It should have been the final thunder of catastrophe, but this time the power was even more horrible. The sky seal. The words came out of Huiyan's mouth. Suddenly, towering beams of lightning blocked the sky. Numerous thunderbolts directly thrust toward Yaya. The scene was appalling. Warriors of the violet heavenly palace looked sullen. Huiyan was of the unblemished Saint Plain, and his cultivation of the thunder law final thunder of catastrophe had broken through to the third level. Once one entered the third level of the final thunder of catastrophe, the attack could be transformed into a final thunder of catastrophe matrix. Using the great path of sky and earth, one could infinitely restore the might of thunder. It was indeed a crucial method of thunder law attack and destruction. If it was used on a large-scale war, it could be a catastrophic power once released. She's over. People of the 8 Thunder Law sects men looked at Yaya and said to themselves. In the previous 2 battles, they were okay, but now, Yaya was confronting the matrix of the final thunder catastrophe of the Violet Heavenly Palace. How could she survive? Nothing but destruction was awaiting her. The third level of the final thunder of catastrophe could terminate all unblemished saints and even threaten cultivators of nirvana planes. Huiyan wanted to kill Yaya on the spot to frighten those people, removing the stigma for the Violet Heavenly Palace. Endless beams of thunder light descended, and at this moment, Yaya below looked extremely trivial. Even all the skies were sealed by the beams of lightning, and the endless void space was filled with beams of thunder. The thunder law locked the sky. She had nowhere to hide and just had to withstand the attacks. Futian looked up to the sky. He was confident in Yaya's strength. After all, she came from the nirvana plane, and now she was about to return to nirvana. Her ability was strong beyond doubt. But seeing this destructive scene, he was still a little worried. The Violet Heavenly Palace was a force standing at the peak of the Heavenly Mandate realm, and its disciples were all extremely outstanding. It was just that the opponents they met here were also highly skilled, including Zhu Yan Demon Crown Prince, Futian, and Yusheng. Yaya sat cross-legged, and a huge sword pattern appeared around her body. In the sword pattern, infinite sword wills were formed, and outside the walls of lightning, there were still swords coming from beyond. Those sword chi directly penetrated the void air and entered her matrix pattern. Around Yaya's body, a sword-shaped light curtain was formed. Endless sword wills turned into a sword of storm, heading towards the sky dome, and collided with the beams of thunder light. Yaya was still sitting in the matrix pattern, and the might of the sword matrix was still strengthening. Die, Huiyan yelled. He stepped in the void air, rising to the upper sky. He lowered his head and looked down. At this moment, the final thunder of catastrophe exploded, and tens of thousands of beams of lightning penetrated the world, blasting toward the direction of Yaya as if they could slay all the gods and demons on earth. People's hearts thumped hard. How could this woman withstand such an attack? Perhaps she would be destroyed by the matrix of final thunder of catastrophe. At that moment, Yaya's body seemed to have merged into the sword matrix. All the swords shrieked at the same time, hovering, and turning into a sword-shaped storm spinning between the sky and earth, which then turned into an extremely dazzling sword, pointing directly toward the sky dome and shooting above the void air. Huiyan's eyes moved there, and suddenly endless light of catastrophe thrust out and crushed on the sword, which made the colossal giant sword tremble. Then a woman's figure showed up and looked up at the sky inside a sword. For a moment, the sword seemed to be turned into nothingness. It went up along the destructive pillars of thunder light, penetrating the thunder attacks, roaming in the light of thunder, and going up against the trend, as if it was a sword walking in the nothingness. Seeing this, Huiyan felt strong anxiety. His body flashed into the sky, but the sword directly penetrated the thunder and targeted his body. It was coming. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. A glaring flash of sword light appeared from the matrix of final thunder of catastrophe and faded away. A glaring flash of sword light appeared from the matrix of final thunder of catastrophe and faded away. Those falling beams of lightning flickered and turned into a disarray of light. The core of the matrix in the upper sky also shattered and dispersed. Endless divine thunder poured down, but there was not as much might as before. When all things vanished, only two figures were standing above the sky. The sword will was flowing in the body of Futian, an unblemished saint warrior of the violet heavenly palace. He got a gash on his body that blood kept flowing from. He slightly coughed and blood oozed from his mouth. His life force was weakening rapidly. The strike of the sword badly wounded him. Futian raised his head and looked up at the young lady in a white dress standing in the void air. She stood there quietly like a sword. He could feel a sense of mysterious detachment from her, which gave him the impression that the woman was not an unblemished saint but a nirvana saint. He understood that although her current plane was unblemished, she was actually infinitely close to nirvana, and even the might she exerted was already that of the nirvana plane. Countless pairs of eyes stared into the upper sky. They watched those two figures, stunned, and felt extremely unsettled. They lost again. The violet heavenly palace was defeated again in the unblemished saint plane, and the warrior was seriously injured. It seemed that Yi Futian's statement was confirmed. Just choose any one of the 4 saint planes to challenge them, they didn't care. 2 battles were complete. Together with Yi Futian's better performance compared with Tanzimo, so far, the violet heavenly palace has been defeated in 3 out of the 4 saint planes. Before, everyone thought Yi Futian's words were nothing but ridiculous exaggerations. But now, did anyone still think so? At this moment, they were beginning to doubt that, even in the Nirvana Saint plane, there were still more cultivators who were able to win over the cultivators of the Violet Heavenly Palace in Yi Futian's group. This idea naturally came to them after they witnessed the 2 previous battles. Moreover, it was meaningless to them even if they fought in the Nirvana plane. Even if they won the battle of the Nirvana plane, so what? They still had huge disadvantages in 3 other planes. Futian was seriously injured and looked quite dispirited. Suddenly he had aged a lot, and he trudged back. The Violet Heavenly Palace, known as the origin of all thunder laws, the supreme power of the heavenly mandate realm, was trounced by a group of casual cultivators. News of this battle would soon be spread across the heavenly mandate realm. Futian returned to the group of the Violet Heavenly Palace. Yaya flashed away, and the next moment, she landed on the ground, standing quietly behind Yi Futian, as if the battle had never happened. At this moment, the place fell silent. No one of the Violet Heavenly Palace stepped out again. As many people thought, it wouldn't make much sense to fight again in the Nirvana plane, not to mention that they were no longer sure if they would win the Nirvana plane battle after 2 fights. Perhaps, even the Violet Heavenly Palace themselves had lost all confidence. It seems that your thunder law is not very good. From now on, when you are outside, don't always say that others are not qualified. That will only lose more of the Violet Heavenly Palace's dignity. In this quiet place, what Yi Futian said was like a loud slap hitting the faces of those in the Violet Heavenly Palace. The Violet Heavenly Palace was thoroughly defeated by Yi Futian. Everything that happened before looked even more ironic. Even though Yi Futian rejected the Violet Heavenly Palace, so what? All disciples of the Violet Heavenly Palace were vanquished by him. The faces of those who lived in the Violet Heavenly Palace were burning. If they had not had tasks with them, they would have immediately left. Staying here would only make them feel more humiliated. People were unkind to the losers of battles. Their failure was so obvious that they couldn't even say anything. They were speechless. Yi Futian took one more glance at Zhang Chongqing and others in the 8 Thunder Law sects. His glance was cold and full of contempt. He soon looked away without paying attention to them. Yi Futian's gaze made Zhang Chongqing realize that Yi Futian never cared about what the disciples of the 8 Thunder Law sects thought of him. Even if he could successfully challenge the Violet Heavenly Palace, Would he care about their 8 sects? Just think about the battle between Huiyan and Yaya. Zhang Chongqing was the most gifted disciple of the Purple Underground sect, the future successor of the great Law Wutu Infernal Thunder. The Purple Underground Emperor valued his talent, and his cultivation plane was also unblemished. However, he had asked himself if he was able to face Huiyan's blow, and he knew he couldn't bear it, and he wouldn't have the ability to fight back. But Yaya could seriously injure Huiyan in that kind of attacking matrix. If he faced Yaya, his ending wouldn't be much different than that of Huiyan. He would be killed. Disciples of the other top forces, like the Heavenly Mandate Dynasty and Brahma's Pure Sky, also had mixed feelings because of the battle. The Violet Heavenly Palace was a famed institution just like them, standing at the top of the Heavenly Mandate realm. Since Yi Futian was able to turn the Violet Heavenly Palace upside down, their strength shouldn't be weaker than those of disciples of any other top forces. That was very unusual in the Heavenly Mandate realm. At the same time, some cultivators of Brahma's Pure Sky also went to the Purple Underground sect. When Yi Futian went away, many people sympathized with him and felt pity for him. Now it seemed that Yi Futian himself didn't care at all. At that time, no one knew he was this powerful. This younger brother of Gu's descendant was not as simple as he seemed. On the top of stairs of the Celestial Demon Arena, the Zhu Yen Demon Crown Prince had watched everything. He had also perceived how unusual Yi Futian was. He had the upper hand in the battle with him, and even the people around him were extraordinary. However, after listening to their conversation, he got to know this Yi Futian was not a cultivator from top powers, and he used a stick method. Zhu Yen Demon Crown Prince was curious about Yi Futian's identity. In one step, Zhu Yen Demon Crown Prince re-entered the Void Sky. Other demon princes followed him, and they came to one corner of the Celestial Demon Arena, looking at the crowd. Today, his purpose had been achieved. He fought battles with Tan Zimo of the Violet Heavenly Palace and Yi Futian, and watched the battle between Yuxing, Yaya, and warriors of the Violet Heavenly Palace. He hadn't wasted his time. As for other top powers, it seemed that they had no intention of fighting. However, since they wanted to find Gu Tianxing, they would have to take action in this demon world one day. You all know where the demon metropolis is, right? Zhu Yen Demon Crown Prince looked at these people and asked. Suddenly everyone turned their heads and looked at him. How could they never have heard of it? It was rumored that many years ago, the demon metropolis of the Heavenly Mandate realm, also called the Divine Demon Domain, was the birthplace of countless powerful demonic beasts. But now, the demon metropolis had become the most chaotic area in the demon realm, but it was also the most crowded gathering place of demon beasts in the demon world, where there were many relics left by the ancestors of the demon realm, even forbidden zones. Therefore, even though there were no top demon clans located in the demon metropolis, it was still one of the most prestigious areas in the demon realm. Many of the top demonic clans in the demon realm were active there. Even in a geographical sense, the demon metropolis was also the center of the demon realm. Gu Tianxing has appeared in the district of the demon metropolis. It is said that he is in a certain forbidden area of the demon metropolis. If you go there, you will surely get news about him, the Zhu Yen Demon Crown Prince said. He chose to announce the news in public instead of just telling any individuals. The information wanted by these top-level humans was useless to him. He arranged the Celestial Demon Matrix here just to see what levels of strength these top cultivators had. Now that his purpose had been achieved, it was okay to tell them. What's more, he also wished that these humans would go to the center of the demon realm and see how many of them would be left there forever. People of all powers slightly changed their expressions when they heard what Zhu Yen Demon Crown Prince said. He said that Gu Tianxing had shown up in the Demon Metropolis district and was in the Forbidden Zone. Did it mean that Gu Tianxing was still alive? If Gu Tianxing hadn't died in that battle, it would potentially be a huge risk for many forces, especially the Heavenly Mandate Dynasty and the Violet Heavenly Palace. Are you sure that person is Gu Tianxing? A royal member of the Heavenly Mandate Dynasty asked Zhu Yen Demon Crown Prince while staring at him. In the Purple Underground sect, when Gu Tianxing came in and just stood there, his existence was able to intimidate all Renhuang figures. One could imagine how threatening he was to the Heavenly Mandate realm. A person who had passed away many years ago was still so intimidating. Gu Tianxing should have been the only one in the century. Zhu Yan Demon Crown Prince glanced toward the crowd of the Heavenly Mandate Dynasty and said, I am unclear on this now. Why don't you just go and see for yourself? Warriors of the Heavenly Mandate Dynasty frowned. It was already risky for them to enter the demon realm. It was better in the outer area, and the Celestial Demon City was the first demon city near the world of human cultivators. But they were very clear where the demon metropolis was. It was the core area of the demon realm, a chaotic place, where there were countless demon beasts, and even the top demon forces would be active there. If they went to the demon metropolis, the risk would shoot up. Moreover, if Gu Tianxing was alive, it was a huge risk for them to go there. Sir, where is the demon metropolis? Yi Futian asked the Verdant Gazelle Palace Lord next to him in a low voice. The Verdant Gazelle Palace Lord looked at the white-haired young man next to him. He was also stirred by the things he saw today. The people he encountered were very unusual. The demon metropolis of the demon realm was known as the place where the demon realm originated. Now it was also the center of the demon realm. The demon forces there are intricate and complex, and there are many large demon beasts there. It is far more powerful and complicated than the Celestial Demon City, the Verdant Gazelle Palace Lord said to Yi Futian. Yi Futian nodded slightly. The Verdant Gazelle Palace Lord looked up at Zhu Yan Demon Crown Prince and said, I can tell the Demon Crown Prince might also want to go to the demon metropolis. Yi Futian was surprised and looked up. Zhu Yan Demon Crown Princess has been peerless in this area, and he arranged these demon matrices also to test the top figures among human cultivators. I guess, the Demon Crown Prince himself wants to go out for a trial, the Verdant Gazelle Palace Lord continued. Yi Futian agreed with him. The Verdant Gazelle Palace Lord might be right. Zhu Yan Demon Crown Prince probably had such a plan indeed. The Zhu Yan Demon Crown Prince seemed to have noticed his gaze. He looked down at him and soon looked away. Yi Futian knew the Demon Crown Prince must be curious about him now. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. After Zhu Yan Demon Crown Prince announced the news, warriors from the Violet Heavenly Palace glanced at Yi Futian, looking a little bit sullen. One of them said, Let's go. After Zhu Yan Demon Crown Prince announced the news, warriors from the Violet Heavenly Palace glanced at Yi Futian, looking a little bit sullen. One of them said, Let's go. After that, the party walked into the sky and immediately left. Warriors of the 8 Thunder Law sects followed them. In the battle of the Celestial Demon City, the Thunder Law cultivators were the ones who took the lead, and even the place of origin of all Thunder Laws, the Violet Heavenly Palace, had to join the battle. But because they were all beaten, they were too ashamed to stay there. Seeing them all staring at Yi Futian before leaving, Xia Qingjiwanan whispered beside him, After being so humiliated by you, I'm afraid the Violet Heavenly Palace will remember you forever. Yi Futian had provoked a lot of hatred. In front of the world, he turned the Violet Heavenly Palace upside down, which made the place of origin of all Thunder Laws, the most advanced practitioners of the Thunder Law cultivation power lose all its dignity. He let them choose any of the 4 Saint Planes, but he defeated them at every level. The feud between Yi Futian and the Violet Heavenly Palace had been settled, but this matter would soon spread. Yi Futian shrugged, slightly turned his head toward Xia Qingyuan, looked at her and said, Have you forgotten the way they talk to you? People of Violet Heavenly Palace were full of themselves, and when doing things or speaking, they never cared about Yi Futian's feelings, so Yi Futian had to teach them a lesson. Besides, everyone had to see the situation. If he had fought then privately, the Violet Heavenly Palace might have cheated. Xia Qingyuan heard him mentioning her, blinked, and soon turned around, avoiding Yi Futian's eyes. She did not speak, but her feelings were stirred. Was it because of her? Earlier that day, someone from the Violet Heavenly Palace said that she was not qualified to speak, which triggered the things that happened later. Yi Futian arrogantly claimed that they could fight with the Violet Heavenly Palace at any of the 4 Saint Planes and won all the battles in front of the world. People gradually dispersed, and warriors of all the top forces also left. Before leaving, they did not forget to look in the direction of Yi Futian. Today, Yi Futian and his party stole all the limelight, throwing the Violet Heavenly Palace's dignity to the ground and trampling on it again and again. Perhaps they were proud at this moment. But nobody knew how long their victorious state would last. For those who were also top forces of the Heavenly Mandate realm, they naturally knew each other's strength. The Violet Heavenly Palace was one of the 5 supreme powers standing on the peak of power. There were countless cultivators and quite a few core disciples. Among them, some extremely dangerous ones had not been sent to this demon realm for trial. After all, there were some unknown risks in the trip, and the sect seniors wouldn't allow their elite to go deep into the demon world. Yi Futian turned the Violet Heavenly Palace upside down, and one day, the Violet Heavenly Palace would seek revenge. Although Renhuang would not do anything to him, if those Saint Plain talents wanted to settle with him, other people had nothing to say, and they might fight again in the name of combat cultivation. And because there was a gap between two sides' strengths, no one dared to say anything if the Violet Heavenly Palace wanted to kill him. Thus, in some people's opinions, Yi Futian and his companions proved their talents and combat abilities, but that might not be a good thing if they didn't have any top forces on which to rely. He had no top-notch background, but he had the top-notch talent, which meant he would be destroyed by the environment around him, just as an extra tall tree alone among bushes would be blown down by the wind. The Violet Heavenly Palace would deal with them sooner or later. After people left, Zhu Yen Demon Crown Prince looked at the Verdant Gazelle Palace Lord and said to him, "Are you willing to come to the Celestial Demon City to cultivate in the future?" The Verdant Gazelle Palace Lord gave him a surprised look. He didn't understand why the Demon Crown Prince suddenly asked. However, since the Demon Crown Prince asked him to cultivate in Celestial Demon City, he wanted to help him. He didn't care, but he knew that for his daughter, Qingyang He, being able to cultivate with the Demon Crown Prince of the Celestial Demon City was the best choice. At least this place was much better than the Verdant Gazelle Palace, and there, she would not encounter things like the incident with Yi Futian. "Yes, I appreciate your Highness's kindness," replied the Verdant Gazelle Palace Lord. Although he was unsure why he still accepted it. After all, he was one of the most powerful demons in the Demon Emperor's territory. "Good," Zhu Yen Demon Crown Prince nodded and then looked at Yi Futian, who was next to him, and said, "Want to walk with me?" Seeing this, the Verdant Gazelle Palace Lord could tell that the Demon Crown Prince invited him to cultivate in Celestial Demon City because of Yi Futian. Before, when he requested news for Yi Futian, he didn't leave a good first impression. But after Yi Futian broke through the demon matrix and showed his marvelous fighting power, the Demon Crown Prince was a little bit surprised. Besides, when the Demon Crown Prince fought with Yi Futian, he advanced his cultivation level and could tell that they had similar staff methods. It was just that they both added their understanding and cultivation methods inside, so their staff methods could be considered independent from one another. "Sure," Yi Futian replied and nodded. He also wanted to talk with him. The ancestors of the Demon Crown Prince and his people might have contact with Emperor Yi Qing. So they talked. "Let's go then," Zhu Yen Demon Crown Prince said. Yi Futian walked out. The Demon Crown Prince intentionally waited for a while to walk with him, and the other 3 demon princes followed. "What is the name of your staff method? Where did you learn it?" Zhu Yen Demon Crown Prince asked. He maintained the same human body just like Yi Futian. Although he was an extremely proud person, for those who could defeat him, he showed respect and treated them equally. What was more, Yi Futian might have a relationship with the Ape Clan. "I came from the lower realm and once was instructed by the Golden Ape Clan to cultivate the 81 strikes of heaven-traversing staff techniques. Later, with my understanding, I evolved the staff method to fit my own cultivate method," Yi Futian responded. It was no secret that the Ape Clan cultivated in the heaven-traversing staff method, and the heaven-traversing 9 strikes itself was indeed derived from the 81 heaven-traversing staff strikes. The Snow Ape Emperor created the heavenly traversing 9 strikes after he left, and he was the only one who passed on the techniques. The Princess Eastern Phoenix, who went to capture the Snow Ape Emperor, was probably the only person who knew it. These skills were kept a secret, and usually, the Snow Ape Emperor would not tell anyone. After all, the situation in the demon realm was complex. If anything went wrong, there would be trouble. But there was nothing wrong with saying that he learned his skills from the heaven-traversing 81 staff strikes. Zhu Yen Demon Crown Prince nodded without a doubt. He also had such conjectures. After that happened, the ape clans were torn apart. Nobody had a good time at that time. How about you, Your Highness? Yi Futian said. Where did you learn the staff method? The Zhu Yen clan is of the same origin as the ape clan. We are relatives. We Zhu Yen know all cultivation methods in which the ape clan cultivates, the Demon Crown Prince responded. It's just you understand the staff method better than I do, and you made it more advanced, which allowed you to win in our fight. In terms of gifts in understanding cultivation methods, human beings still outdo the demon clans. But I don't understand, why is your physical strength so strong? Zhu Yen Demon Crown Prince asked curiously. Not only was Yi Futian extremely strong, but Yu Xing, the demonic cultivator, was also terrifyingly strong. When I entered the saint plane, I had already built a figure of a saint. Since I began to cultivate, I have been refining the body by cultivating and never giving up, Yi Futian replied. Even so, you should have also cultivated in body-enhancing techniques. After all, even if you have the sacred body, the physical strength of the Zhu Yen clan should still be stronger than yours, said Zhu Yen Demon Crown Prince. Your Highness's physical body is indeed very strong. In addition to the physical body, I have also cast the starry battle form with the might of law, so I didn't fall behind in terms of strength, Yi Futian said. The Zhu Yen Demon Crown Prince nodded and said, From now on, you don't have to call me Your Highness, just call me Zhu Zhao. Okay, Yi Futian replied and nodded. The verdant gazelle palace lord behind him was surprised. Zhu Yen Demon Crown Prince had told Yi Futian his real name, as though he was a friend. In the celestial demon city, Zhu Yen Demon Crown Prince was the most distinguished and unparalleled person. Even the descendants of the other 3 demon clans followed him. He was the boss of the 4 tyrants. Yi Futian would be the first cultivator he was willing to befriend as an equal, and he was a human. One reason for the budding friendship might have been because of the ape clan's staff method. Of course, another reason was that Yi Futian had defeated him. The demon clans respected power, following the rules of nature. For the ones who were stronger than them, they naturally showed respect. Hearing what Zhu Yen Demon Crown Prince said, the Taotai demon looked dissatisfied. Boss, he's a human, the Taotai demon prince whispered. Third brothers, the prince of the Thunder God clan told him to stop. He didn't feel anything, and since the boss had decided, he agreed. The gorgeous lady of the Feathermen clan also pulled Taoyu's arm. Zhu Zhao turned his head, took a glance at Taotai with his golden eyes, and said, Stop it. The Taotai demon prince lowered his head but still looked unhappy. Your temper is too hot, Black Wind Condor murmured next to him. The big demon beast glanced at him with a pair of fierce eyes, and the Black Wind Condor was not scared at all and was also staring at him with a pair of sharp eyes. This idiot, it is his honor to befriend my master. Did he dare complain? If it had not been for master's kindness, he would not have deserved to be a mount. I'm also going to the demon metropolis, how about going with me? Zhu Zhao said after turning his head. If you are willing to lead the way, it will be more convenient, Yi Futian said. Don't be too positive. Demon emperors were not here in the celestial demon city now. We will have to travel by ourselves. I am afraid it will take a lot of time, Zhu Zhao laughed and said. Yi Futian showed surprise and said, Where did demon emperors go? Their purpose is the same as yours, Gu Tianxing's news. Otherwise, how would I know about it? Zhu Zhao asked slowly, sobering Yi Futian. Had Gu Tianxing's news also caused a sensation in the demon realm? For the third brother, was it a good thing or a bad thing? What happened? Yi Futian asked. Gu Tianxing went to the place of origin of the demon world, said Zhu Zhao, his golden eyes looking into the distance, extremely sharp. At this moment, the verdant gazelle palace lord behind him was also slightly agitated. A human cultivator had set foot on the place of origin of their demon realm? It was an absolutely forbidden area for the demon world. What was Gu Tianxing doing there? Yi Futian also realized that the situation was becoming more and more unusual. He thought it was unlikely that Gu Tianxing was alive, but the change of survival was growing. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. The demon metropolis was located in the center of the demon world of the heavenly mandate realm. This district was vast and boundless. Forces there were intricate and complicated. It was the most well-known chaotic place in the demon world. The demon metropolis was located in the center of the demon world of the heavenly mandate realm. This district was vast and boundless. Forces there were intricate and complicated. It was the most well-known chaotic place in the demon world. Once, it had also been the most crowded place in the demon world. Many of the top demon clans originated here. And now, there was sensational news from the demon metropolis. It was said that in the north of the demon metropolis, human cultivators showed up in the mountain range of the place of origin of the demon world. Moreover, it was said that the person was Gu Tianxing, the most prestigious human cultivator of his time and the person closest to the level of heavenly law in the heavenly mandate realm. There were many rumors about the place of origin in the demon realm. It was said that this was once the place where the demon monarch lived. Later in the battle of heavenly laws, the demon monarch died. His blood turned into a river, his body turned into land, and his bones were buried in the mountain of origin. Since then, countless powerful ancestors of the demon realm had come out of the mountain range of origin. There were also rumors that the unprecedented war between humans and demon beasts had broken out in the mountain range of origin, and the bones of countless human emperors and demon emperors were buried in it. Until today, the thoughts of numerous humans and demon beasts remained there and were sealed in the mountain range of origin, making the mountain range of origin a forbidden area. Nobody could set foot in the core of the mountain range of origin, no matter how powerful the figure was in the demon realm. But now, because of the news about Gu Tianxing, the demon realm began focusing its attention on the mountain range of origin. It was said that powerful figures were coming from all sides of the demon realm, including those big names in the demon world and top demon clans. All of a sudden, the chaotic demon metropolis became the center of the storm. Everyone had a hunch that something big was going to happen. Many days had passed since Futian came to the demon metropolis from the celestial demon city. During this time, they were in a tavern of the demon metropolis. The tavern was built by large stones and was open air. At this moment, many demon beasts were sitting around eating meat and drinking. There were all kinds of demon beasts. Some of them ate cooked meat and some ate raw meat. Futian and his companions were sitting together in a circle, just like the demon beasts. They all sat on the floor. The Taodai demon prince ate the most. In front of him, there were a lot of bones. Xia Qingyuan couldn't bear to see all the bones. She was sitting beside Futian and turned her head, with no appetite to eat. Zhu Zhao took a glance at her and said, "This is the demon world. You should get used to it." She has never lived in the demon world before. It's inevitable for her to have some kind of reaction, Futian said. He was grilling meat with black-winged condor, and black-winged condor's drool was almost visible. These humans have fine skin and tender flesh. They must taste good. A voice came from nearby, followed by a burst of laughter. Especially those women. That human female cultivator has nice skin, and that female peacock, hee, said a big demon beast, staring at Xia Qingyuan and Kong Xian. In such places like the demon metropolis, there were very few human cultivators. These human beings stayed together with demon beasts, which made them wonder about their identities. However, demon beasts of the demon metropolis usually showed no favor to humans. "Third brother," Zhu Zhao said and gave Taodai a hint. Taodai put down the meat in his hand and walked towards the big talking demon beast. "What do you want to do?" the demon beast asked, eyes glowing with chilly dim light. "Roar!" A bellow shook everyone's eardrums. The Taotai big demon beast's mouth crazily widened and swallowed everything in the direction of that big demon beast. The big demon beast's face turned pale and despair was apparent in his eyes. How dare this beast wanting to kill anyone inside the demon metropolis? The demon beast was so frightened that he closed his eyes, thinking sadly that he would be swallowed up, and his body kept trembling. However, after a moment he moved slightly and opened his eyes, only seeing that Taotai had returned to the original seat and resumed eating. The demon beast's way of thinking is much simpler than that of humans. They will test you first, and if you don't dare to fight back, they may consider attacking and eating you, Zhu Zhao said to Yi Futian and others. Yi Futian nodded slightly. Zhu Zhao clearly understood the idea of the demon beasts of the demon realm better than he did. Come over, Zhu Zhao uttered in an extremely cold voice. That big demon beast with a lion's head came. He could tell from Zhu Zhao's tone that this demon beast was of extraordinary origin, but he didn't know why he stayed with humans. Anything new in the demon metropolis recently? Zhu Zhao asked while biting into the meat and not looking at him. In the demon realm, there were many demon beasts that he couldn't mess with, but they would never be encountered here. Even if he did meet one, he could see through them, so he could act even more audacious than them. He was confident in this. If the answer is unsatisfactory to me, you will become this, Zhu Zhao said and pointed to the plate in front of him. The demon beast's head shrank into his shoulders, he said in a deep voice. A few months ago, the news came out that Gu Tianxing, a human cultivator who once was famed in the heavenly mandate realm, appeared in the mountain range of origin, and many demon warriors of the demon realm have come. It was said that many demon emperor figures have already arrived. Besides, those top-level demon clans have also gradually entered the demon metropolis. Is that all? Zhu Zhao glanced at him with his golden eyes. They have heard about the news after they arrived at the demon metropolis. And the lion demon felt a little chilly and continued. Recently, in the demon metropolis it was also said that there will be great changes in the demon realm in the future. Not only the demon realm but in the whole heavenly mandate realm, including the land of human cultivators. Where did you hear about this? Zhu Zhao asked. People said the news is from the prophet's palace, he replied. Hearing his words, the Zhu Yen big demon beast's golden pupils contracted. His eyes became extremely sharp. Anything else? Zhu Zhao asked. The prophet's palace also said that a big figure would come to the demon metropolis. Who? Zhu Zhao suddenly stared at him and asked. I don't know. No one knows. Now all demon beasts in the demon metropolis are making guesses about who the big figure in the mouth of the prophet is. That demon beast shook his head and said, Now many demon emperors have arrived, and there will be more demon beast big names coming. Some people guess the person the prophet refers to is one of them. If it refers to one of them, isn't the prophet talking nonsense? That would be a disgrace to the name of the prophet, Zhu Yen said a little disdainfully. Apparently, he didn't believe this. Those important figures of the demon realm would come, but if the prophet referred to them, it would be meaningless, just like talking nonsense. The big figure in the mouth of the prophet was different, but who could it be? Maybe, the lion beast whispered. No, it is not maybe. The prophet's palace claimed that there will be a big change in the demon realm, and then said there will be an impressive man coming, which means this person can effect a big change in the demon realm in the future, and from the perspective of the prophet, the big figure will not be the same big figure being talked out by losers like you. Zhu Zhao said coldly, What else? For big events, that's all I know, the lion demon beast replied with his head lowered. Get out then, Zhu Zhao said. The demon beast was being pardoned and left sneakily. He wouldn't dare stay any longer. Yi Futian had been listening quietly. He looked toward Zhu Zhao quite confused. The prophet's position was transcendent in the demon realm. He possesses the ability to foresee the future. This ability is similar to the astrology of human cultivators. It is very rare. In the ancient demon realm, it is said that the prophet clan was also a big clan, but because such talent made the heavens jealous, they almost faced genocide. Today, only the prophet's palace exists in the demon realm, and there is only one prophet beast in the prophet's palace, and he alone represents a clan. The verdant gazelle palace lord beside Zhu Zhao explained to Yi Futian. This time, he also came along. Yi Futian thought for a moment. Astrologists were indeed rare in the world of human cultivators. Moreover, such people were short-lived. His master Qi Xiangang was gifted with some abilities to predict future, but that was because of his mysterious and all-inclusive cultivation method, the deed of thorough comprehension. He was not a true astrologer. Because of this, the status of the prophet palace is detached, It does not participate in the disputes of the demon realm, and warriors of all clans are not allowed to attack the prophet, to keep the only big demon beast of the demon realm from harm, the verdant gazelle palace lord continued. That is to say, the prophet's prophecy truly exists? Yi Futian asked. Yes, Zhu Zhao said, nodding. There are many strange places in the demon metropolis, and the prophet's palace is one of them. Moreover, it is known as a must-go place, and many of the top demon beasts visit the prophet's palace when they come to the demon metropolis and let the prophet tell them their fortunes. But whether the prophet would like to receive you or not depends on your luck, and in most cases, he doesn't. That is to say, now not only Gu Tianxing has appeared in the mountain range of origin, but the prophet also warned that the future of the heavenly mandate realm is destined to be not peaceful, right? Yi Futian asked. You could say that. What is happening now is probably very unusual. If Gu Tianxing is alive, why did he come to the mountain range of origin in the demon realm, and is he arranging something? Zhu Zhao asked, lost in thought. Also, who was the big man the prophet spoke of? It seems that we have to ask ourselves, Zhu Zhao said. It is a must-go place of the demon metropolis. I guess many demon beasts will go to visit. Would you like to go together? You want to visit the prophet's palace? Yi Futian asked. The prophet not only can predict events but also sees the future of demon beasts. I have heard about it, but I have never been there before, and this time, I want to go. Although you are a human, you can also try your luck there and let the prophet see your future, Zhu Zhao said. Yi Futian smiled and said, I know best about my future and don't need to bother the prophet to tell me, but since you said it magical, I want to accompany you. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.